All right, what I want to do now is look at how cells reproduce, and we're going to look at a process called mitosis, and along with that, what is called cytokinesis. These are two fundamental processes of cell reproduction in eukaryotic cells. Well, we're going to step back a second and think about what cells have to do to reproduce. And there are three basic things that all cells do when they reproduce. First of all, they duplicate their DNA. And they need to do that to make sure that the daughter cells that are produced have the right amount of DNA they need. So then in step two, you take that DNA and you divide it into two or more sets or two or more groups. And then, of course, cells need more than just DNA to survive. They need cytoplasm and oftentimes organelles, especially in eukaryotic cells. So the third step in cell reproduction is dividing the cytoplasm and organelles. In prokaryotes, cell reproduction is called binary fission. But in eukaryotes, step one is called the S phase, which is part of what's called interphase. Step two is the M phase, and that is either mitosis or meiosis, depending on the types of cells that the organism needs to make. Step three is called cytokinesis or cytoplasmic division. So before we get into this, we have to think a little bit about chromosomes. In eukaryotic cells, there are basically two types of chromosomes. The first type of chromosome is called an unduplicated chromosome because it consists of a single molecule of DNA. And that's what I'm representing here with this red bar, an unduplicated chromosome, one molecule of DNA. After the S phase in eukaryotes, you end up with what is called a duplicated chromosome. It's called that because you've got two identical molecules of DNA after DNA duplication. The purple area represents a set of proteins that are called the kinetochore, and they're involved in moving the chromosomes around during cell division, and we'll see that in a little bit. All right, so let's pretend that we've made our duplicated chromosomes and we're ready for mitosis. And so here in this example, I have a cell that just has 4 chromosomes, 2 big ones and 2 smaller ones. Each one has 2 DNA molecules, so we have a total of 4 times 2 DNA, or 8 DNA molecules represented here in this particular cell. All right, so what's the point of this mitosis stuff? Well, mitosis takes the DNA that we've duplicated beforehand and divides it into 2 identical sets of DNA. Mitosis is a process of nuclear division, and the cell nuclei that are produced are genetically identical. In other words, they're clones of each other. Mitosis plus cytoplasmic division or cytokinesis is used for 2 possible things. One is asexual reproduction, which may not sound like a whole lot of fun, but it's part of the life cycle of many organisms, including many animals. The other thing that mitosis can do is provide cells for growth and repair. And this is obviously important for organisms such as us, who are made up of many, many different cells. Again, in our example, we have 4 duplicated chromosomes, but a total of 8 DNA molecules that have to be divvied up into 2 separate sets. And so that's going to happen during the stages of mitosis. And you're going to want to learn the stages of mitosis. They're going to be prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase plus cytokinesis. So let's take a look at what happens in prophase. In early prophase, the nuclear envelope disappears, so I have my 4 chromosomes in the cytoplasm, and here you can see these little spindle fibers, which are microtubules, which you might remember are part of the cytoskeleton, and they're going to attach to these proteins that we earlier called kinetochores. By late prophase, the spindle fibers have attached to the kinetochores and the chromosomes are moving around, And so at the end of prophase, you have the next phase, which is called metaphase. And notice that the chromosomes are lined up in the middle of the cell and more or less end to end. And you can see the spindle fibers attached to the kinetochores. And what's going to happen, and the reason this happens is because the spindle fibers are going to pull the DNA molecules that are part of each duplicated chromosome in opposite directions. So for example, this one here is going to get pulled in this direction. This one here is going to end up pulled in this direction. Same sort of thing happens to the other DNA molecules in these chromosomes. All right, and as that begins to happen, we go into what's called anaphase. And you can see now we have the beginnings of our two groups of chromosomes. Each group has 4 unduplicated chromosomes, and each of these sets of DNA are genetically identical. After anaphase, the nuclear envelope reforms, but notice now we've got 2 daughter nuclei. This gets back to what I was saying before, that mitosis is a process of nuclear division, and this last phase of mitosis is called telophase. And then cytokinesis, or division of the cytoplasm, even though it's a separate process from mitosis, it usually is coordinated with it, and oftentimes it occurs along with telophase. And so after we're all done dividing the cytoplasm, we have 2 daughter cells. Each one has all the DNA needed to survive, and here are the nuclei of each cell. They're genetically identical to each other, and each of the cells also has the cytoplasm and organelles that it needs to survive. So here are the key points to remember right now. First of all, mitosis is a process of nuclear division. Make sure that you study the 4 phases of mitosis and think about what happens to the chromosomes. The result is 2 genetically identical daughter nuclei. Next, cytoplasmic division or cytokinesis is a separate process from mitosis. Finally, the cells produced by mitosis and I've got a C there that I need to get rid of, cytokinesis are used for growth and repair, and in many organisms for asexual reproduction. So make sure you understand what's going on in mitosis, because in another video we're going to look at a process called meiosis, which in animals is used to make sex cells, that is the egg and the sperm. And it's a little bit more complicated process than mitosis because it involves 2 divisions rather than just 1, and you end up with 4 daughter cells. So spend a little bit of time with mitosis and getting comfortable with what's going on with the chromosomes before you look at meiosis. All right, so we'll see you in a little bit.